And we are back.
We're back.
I'm excited about this.
This is different. Yeah.
It is. So we're in an Airbnb in Tampa. Brandon's in the background kind of acting like he's doing something important just so he can listen to us record. We're with Sean and Ken from Matrix Hormones. Can you guys just give a quick intro of who you are and what it is exactly that you do so that we don't have to guess?
Sure. I'm the head specialist for Matrix Hormones. Ken is a senior specialist. Basically what we do is just going over blood work with patients and determining hormone deficiencies, possible nutritional deficiencies. Just trying to get people healthy and better quality of life.
My name is Ken Marple. I'm actually Sean's assistant. I'm just here for support today. No, I'm the founder and owner of Matrix Hormones and the senior specialist. And like Sean said, it's we started with the goal of treating people and helping people, but trying to take it to a level of the best care and customer service. There's a lot of fly-by-night businesses out there per se, and we wanted to stand out for our care and service, and we strive to do that the last 5 years.
Yeah, I can speak on the customer service aspect. I was blown away when I hung up the phone with you after my consultation. Mm-hmm. I ran out to the back porch because she was sitting outside because that's what she does. She's a lizard.
Oh, okay.
And I ran out there and I was like, "Babe, I just had my consultation." I was like, "That dude knows his shit." Like I was so excited because, like I said, I've had other experiences with other companies, and with my hematocrit being the way that it is, nobody has ever been like, "No, we're not going to prescribe to you." And you were flat out like, "I'm not comfortable with this." And I'm like, "Good, because my heart's not comfortable right now." I actually just did my second blood dump yesterday, day before. And with the finger prick test, I'm still at like 19. So Brandon said that the finger prick test is not accurate, but...
Not completely accurate always.
Yeah.
Were you drinking water the morning of? Plenty of water?
Nope.
Remember, yeah, your blood is the water you drink plus red blood cells. So when you don't drink water and you dehydrate overnight, so you can have a gallon of water today, you dehydrate overnight, those values are going to look higher than they really are in the morning.
Gotcha.
So we always suggest to our patients drink a big bottle of water about an hour prior to testing, get hydrated, so we can see good values, and I'm not nagging you, Chris.
Gotcha.
Numbers are still high.
Well, that makes sense. I actually, we're getting ready to start. We have a men's group in our Discord channel where the men get together and we do recommended reading. We do recommended workouts, recommended dates, things like that, because we do have a lot of relationship aspects to our podcast. And one of the things that is part of the third chapter of the men's group that we're doing is that at nighttime before men go to bed, that they put a 30-ounce bottle of water or 20-ounce bottle of water on their nightstand and drink it before getting out of bed. So you sit up and immediately pound the water. Because I find myself going to energy drinks, and almost everyone I know goes to coffee. And when you, like you said, you dehydrate overnight. So I read a study the other day that was talking about brain function and water in the morning. And if you don't have enough water when you first wake up, your brain's not firing the way that it's supposed to. And
it also activates all your organs.
Yeah.
Turns everything back on and first thing in the morning. So you're not pounding energy drinks and coffee, and your liver and kidneys are going, what's going on? We're not even awake yet. So
yeah. So what made you want to do this? Because this, I mean, founder, that's a statement.
My own health issues, going back about almost 20 years now, in general medicine at that time, and started to have some of my own health issues that was finally identified as testosterone and a little bit of a thyroid issue. And it was all downhill from there with general medicine, even seeing so-called specialists at that time. It's all the things I would tell you not to do now. That's what we were doing 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And you know, these are people I had relationships and knew and colleagues, and it just was not good. And I started doing my own research, my own testing in labs, and nobody knew what to do with it. Estrogen, that's a woman's hormone. Estradiol, yeah. No. And so I came across a doctor. He was towards the end of his career. He was older, and he had been doing this since the mid-'90s when Suzanne Summers was promoting it, and everybody's like, "Oh, Chrissy from Three's Company? No way." And he heard my case, and I talked a lot and gave him a lot because after years of not feeling well and going downhill, and he's like, "I'm really impressed with your knowledge and your credentials. I'm looking to bring somebody into the business, and would you be my physician's assistant?" I'm like, "Sure. Can you save me first and then talk business later?" And that's kind of the way it developed, and I was hooked on it from that time, and just continuing. As much as we know, you find out something new every day. It's just evolving and trying to adapt to the individual patient. No patient's the same. Yes, there's a lot of things that works on the same, but you have to, we read the intake forms, but we always ask the patients, what's your main concern? What are your main symptoms? And it's really about building that relationship and processing all the information. We're verbal creatures.
Right.
You verbally expressing something to me and me feeding off of that and us communicating. You talked about me holding off on your therapy. I knew that's not the answer you wanted to hear from me, but that was the best answer at the moment. But also how you present to somebody those answers. Hey, this is high. That's it. You're not doing this. You do that.
Right.
You can't talk to people like that.
No, I agree.
And that's very important. But that led me down this path, and it's always been about the care of the patient and the quality. And I'll be honest with you, we can't always figure out things with certain patients, or certain things don't work, and we take it to heart. It's very disappointing. We talk among ourselves like, we don't get it. What else can we do? What can we read? What can we find? And you don't always have the answer, but we do take it to heart, and it's mostly because we've been through it.
Yeah, that I know that you said that it's not something that I wanted to hear. I woke up at like 3:00 in the morning one morning, and I thought I was having a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And I talked to my mom, and my mom was like, your dad goes through that. It's probably just a panic attack. I'm like, I was sleeping. Mm-hmm. What am I panicking about? And she's like, could have been a dream, whatever, yada, yada. And I know that I need blood dumps. Like, that's something that I had to do before. And I knew that I knew I was going to be high. I knew that. But it's one of those things that you're like, I can't say all men, but I'm one of those men who are like, it'll go away. Mm-hmm. It'll go away. I just need to wait it out. That pain will go away.
He's not kidding. He was almost dying on the couch from a kidney stone. Mm-hmm. Like, he was white like paper. And Simon was like, maybe we should go to the hospital. And I was like, we should go to the hospital.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a whole lot they can do for you other than give you pain meds. Mm-hmm. You just got to let it pass. But
there's other forms of treatment for that.
Yeah.
They gave you the stuff to break it up and whatnot.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
But
I could talk to you about it later.
Yeah.
But there's other things that nutritional supplements that can help with that.
yeah, I actually took, I found something on Amazon that they called Stone Breaker. I don't know what the actual thing was, but I started taking, I haven't had a kidney stone since. Mm-hmm. I think that kidney stone came about because I went very drastic on my diet from the hurricane. I was eating very clean, like counting my macros clean. And the hurricane hit and we went to Tennessee, and I went from eating a very clean 6-7 meal a day diet to eating Five Guys and Crystal Burgers and 6 energy drinks a day and no water. And
So it's something interesting you bring that up, and it's about, of course, everybody knows water. Water is going to play a big factor in it, how much you drink or don't drink, but also caffeine. Somebody can say, yeah, so what? I drink a half a gallon of water a day. How much caffeine do you have? Well, probably as much. You pretty much didn't have any water.
Yeah.
Caffeine is a diuretic. I always say you go for one for one. If you're drinking 32 ounces of water a day and you're drinking 16 ounces of water, or caffeine, I'm sorry, then you got 16 ounces of water in you. You need to compensate for your caffeine. I also don't recommend somebody drink a ton of caffeine a day. So,
well, that's the thing.
What are you drinking right now? Is that
that's
energy something on
No,
it?
that's a to be better drink. The can that's inside of there is irrelevant.
Yeah, it's actually for each caffeinated beverage, for cup, you would consume 1 cup of water to offset that. So that breaks even. So you're at 0. So then you have to consume another cup to be hydrated above that.
Yep.
You're slacking.
So all the hydration checks that we get in Discord,
You need them.
I'm negative.
Oh, gosh. You were.
Yeah, which that can play a large role in your hematocrit.
Yeah.
As well as kidney
Oh,
stones.
that's good to know.
Well,
that's
that's good
good to
talking about the hydration part.
Yeah.
So
A lot of people don't realize that your blood is the water you drink plus red blood cells. That's a simple way of saying it.
And if you have issues with energy, then actually consuming more electrolyte-based beverages can help with natural energy. Or, based on blood testing, we can figure out if you have low thyroid, or something going on with thyroid, or your adrenal glands. I do run into a lot of people that end up relying on caffeine because they have adrenal dysfunction, and they're not producing enough hormones by the adrenal glands, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and caffeine artificially stimulates that.
But depletes
That's a
the
lot of
adrenaline.
information.
It depletes it, so it gives you the momentary, I feel better, I keep going.
Okay.
I drink more caffeine to keep going. It's like you get used to it. I drink more, I
Right.
drink more, I drink more, but you're just depleting that adrenal more. It's you're putting a Band-Aid on something, but it's making it worse.
So then how do you guys feel about pre-workouts?
Well, So caffeine is an ergogenic aid. I mean, that's a fact. It's, banned from WADA. But so it does work for it, but I wouldn't rely on it. Now, pre-workouts per se, there's nothing. They advertise the crap out of it, but there's nothing in pre-workouts that directly attribute to muscle stimulation or growth. All it is stimulants, amino acids, and things that can help increase neural drive. So you get energy from hormones from adrenals. You have more cognitive function and thinking to get that mind-muscle connection.
Yeah.
And then you have amino acids that help with blood flow. But that's it. Nothing directly stimulates or attributes muscle growth. In fact, your hormones, the catecholamines, which are your stress hormones produced by the adrenal glands, like adrenaline and cortisol and so forth, are actually catabolic to muscle tissue. So, in a sense, overconsumption of caffeine or those pre-workouts that are loaded with caffeine can be counterproductive to muscle growth.
That AC kicking off.
Got quiet, didn't it?
We really did, yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
I didn't know that about pre-workout.
I knew that. I didn't know the catabolic aspect, but I knew that it messes with your adrenal glands. I'm a stimulant junkie.
Yeah.
I like feeling awake and energetic all the time because I don't sleep. But I also know that I probably don't sleep because of the amount of stimulants I take in every day.
Well, yeah, you create a vicious cycle that way.
Right.
So I do help a lot of people correct that through some supplementation. We partner with a company called Designs for Health that makes pharmaceutical grade supplements and stuff like that. And so there's a couple of adrenal support products that I recommend that work really well with a lot of people. So they actually have a morning formula to actually help give you natural energy and stimulate your adrenal glands to function normally. And then they have a nighttime formula that you take at bed to help you calm down and relax, improve your quality of sleep, but also correct the adrenals while you're sleeping.
Wow. I didn't ask you how you got into this.
I started exercising when I was 16 years old because I was tired of being small, weak, and puny.
Okay.
So being a little kid in school, I used to get picked on and that kind of thing. So I finally got sick of it. I told all my best friends I'm going to start working out. Every single one of them laughed at me. And then within about 6 months, I was doing the most push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups in the entire class. Literally every single night, I would do as many push-ups and pull-ups and sit-ups as I could do at home. Because back then, I lived in Connecticut. I'm 45 years old, so this was a long time ago. But we had fitness testing in a gym class.
Right.
And first time I did it, I failed miserably. So just the personal embarrassment of that, plus just the, being teased or picked on, just like any kids in school do. I just decided I was just tired of it. And I was insecure with myself. And just wanted to change it. So that got me into that. Then I started playing sports, then was asked to compete in powerlifting, then transferred into bodybuilding. And ever since then, I've kind of like been biohacking my own body. And back then, there wasn't a lot of information because when I was 18 years old is when the internet was just being invented.
Right.
So I was just doing a lot of reading and research for myself on how to build myself up. I started taking anatomy and physiology in high school, and I found it so fascinating, interesting that it was so much to learn. Like I thought I knew some stuff before, but the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know that I wanted to learn more. So I've just been studying and learning ever since. And then going into college, I was trying to get into physical therapy. Because that was something related to, human movement,
Right.
That I could make a living with. But then at the time, the market became so flooded with physical therapists because at first there was not enough. Then there was an abundance, and then people were graduating with a degree in physical therapy and couldn't get a job. And then plus, so the schools at the time cut back on the amount of entries that they'll take. And so then the wait list to get in was about 400 people. And so then I was like, what am I going to do now? So I graduated with a bachelor's in science and then started working in a hospital doing cardiopulmonary rehab, helping with that, as well as they had like a little fitness center I helped run. And just doing that for several years, I got tired of the hospital politics and got into the natural health industry. And actually going backpedal a little bit, I started working at GNC at 19 and started learning about, a lot of things at that time, reading a lot of the magazines and all that. So in fact, it got to a point where my manager was even asking me questions, and helping other customers with some of their health problems. So I've just always been big into learning more about the human body. I just think it's the most fascinating machine on the planet.
Yeah, it's wild. So the fitness thing has obviously always been a passion. Mm-hmm. What did you enjoy more, powerlifting or bodybuilding?
It's kind of hard. Because the difference between both is powerlifting technically is easier because you don't have the diet for it.
Right.
It's fun being strong.
Right.
That's one thing that I would miss from it is literally when you are strong, you literally feel strong.
Right.
And just having that power is a big confidence boost.
Yeah.
And then transferring, but I got out of it because even at a young age, my knees were starting to hurt all the time. Mm-hmm. From all the heavy lifting. So then transferring over to bodybuilding is higher volume. And then with that, your focus is more on changing your physique rather than focusing on the weight. Yeah. Then that in itself became more of a challenge with the diet and trying to manipulate your body fat. And I've just always been one, I guess ever since when I went through puberty, just always wanted a challenge. Because if I don't feel challenged, if I get bored, I quit.
Yeah.
So I'm one of those people like with a job or whatnot that if I reach a certain point where I get really good at it and there's no more growth or personal growth and development, I look for something else.
That makes sense.
Looking to grow more, whether it's either in the business itself or my knowledge and being able to help people.
Makes sense. I used to always call the bodybuilders to show me muscles because I always did powerlifting and strongman. That was my enjoyment. But I have foraminal stenosis in my spine. So I had a chiropractor be like, you keep doing what you're doing, you're not going to be able to walk. So I had to quit powerlifting and I started doing power building because I would still want to hit my big numbers, but bodybuild on the side. And I tore my pec off my humerus.
Yeah.
Twice.
I should have said that twice.
So now I have a little gym and I just go in there and do machine work and remind myself that I'm not in my 20s anymore. But
yeah, that's one thing that sucks is getting older.
Yeah, it really does. It really does.
But that's where, I'm getting big into anti-aging now because I'm 45 and I want to try to continue to challenge myself physically and but without hurting myself in the process. Right. And so with that, changing my lifestyle as well as supplementation and protocols for more longevity, but trying to be youthful at the same time. So, there's a lot of anti-aging products. One of the biggest ones right now in the market is NMN to try to improve mitochondrial function, which declines as we age. And that is in charge of a lot of chemical processes in the body.
So is that something that you guys are dealing with Matrix?
We do. It's not like, I don't get a lot of people asking about it because most people are looking at hormones now.
Right.
Hormones are chemical messengers for cells in the body as well. Your hormones like testosterone, mostly for men, that in itself doesn't have a direct action on mitochondria, but you can still speed up a lot of cellular processes and gene transcription and protein synthesis in cells with testosterone. So that's why it's considered anabolic.
Right.
Because you're building up new cells and tissue. So testosterone itself is somewhat anti-aging for that because if you can have youthful levels to when you're, almost a teenager in your 20s, you're going to feel a lot better.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, but there's other things that go beyond it that still continue to decline as we get older. So if you're only maximizing one part, you're missing out on some other things.
Do you have any questions that you'd like to get into?
Yeah, I do have a question for you, Ken. So you said about 20 years ago, it kind of just boiled down to your testosterone was the issue.
Yeah, it was for whatever reason, I was around 31, 32.
Okay.
My testosterone just started dropping early.
Okay. So what were some of the signs you recognized where you're like, okay, this isn't right. I should probably check this out.
Losing muscle quickly,
Okay.
gaining fat, energy went down. And now when everybody hears about testosterone, they think about it's mainly sexual function. Me and Sean have joked about this, that when men and women, when they come into us, guys usually come into us and they say, oh, well, I have a libido erection problem the last few weeks, the last few months, you got to fix me. And then you say, okay, well, have you felt fatigued or concentration issues, motivation issues? Yeah, I felt that with the last couple of years. What does that have to do with it? Well, that's probably when it started.
Yeah.
Women are the opposite. Women come in and they say, I'm having problems concentrating and energy and taking care of business. And you're like, well, how's your libido? Yeah, it hasn't been great for the couple of years. What does that have to do with it? Completely we're flipped on what we consider the priority. What drives the women is when they can't concentrate and do all the things they do. For most men, we're motivated to do something when we have the libido issue. In my case, the libido issue was very, very I mean, my testosterone dropped down to 32.
Holy shit.
Before the libido hit, so it had to be under 100 or close to 32.
Wow.
And we checked it 3 times because we thought the test was wrong.
Wow.
And for whatever reason, just lucky, unlucky, my libido stayed there. So, but I had all the other concentration and mood issues and lost muscle rapidly, weight gain, couldn't figure it out. Diagnosed it was low. We made sure it was low. Back then, you start the typical treatment, 1 big shot a week, 200 milligrams a week with your 1.5 inch, 21 gauge syringe, harpoon. And if you go back a little further to the college days, it was an 18 inch. Or I'm sorry, 1.5 inch, 18 gauge. So I'm like thankful, 21 gauge, I can deal with it. But looking at nothing else, red blood cells went through the roof, estrogen went through the roof, prolactins. So,
That harpoon is still bro science.
Yeah.
You get on any forum on the planet, and that's exactly what they're telling you.
Well, it's usually the older guys.
Yeah.
Because I'll still have some guys that have been on TRT or they do their own self-administration. And when I tell them we're going to send them 27 gauge inch syringes, like half inch,
27.
and they're like, what, you're not sending 21 gauge? He said, I use 21 all the time. I said, no, you don't need 21. It's going to be 1.5 inches. I'm like, no, you don't have to hit the bone.
We actually had that conversation.
Yeah, we did.
Because I've always done 20 gauge 1 inch.
Yeah,
Or 21 gauge 1 inch.
Yeah.
It works.
It does, but it's hard to explain to them that, well, your skin and fat layer, you're talking only millimeters, unless you're like 45% body fat. But otherwise, you don't have much tissue to go through to hit the muscle.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the booty shots?
Yeah.
We're going 1.5 inches in the booty. Dudes are doing.
Yeah.
Hopefully somebody listened to this whole conversation before they caught that.
Brandon, these are the clips that we're talking about for TikTok, bro. We do 1 inch into my glute when we do my shot.
Yeah.
And when we do my shoulders, we're doing 5/8 in my shoulder.
Some dudes are like, I want the 1.5 inches.
Yeah.
And
some think they have to go all
And
the
also
way.
the gauge. The gauge makes a big difference.
It
If you're
does.
talking 25, 21, or 18 gauge.
Well, yeah, because then you're talking about the thickness of the needle versus
Right.
length.
We own tattoo studios, so we're both body piercers. We understand the gauge thing quite a bit.
But I don't know
I'm just saying for your listeners.
Oh, gotcha. Good call. See, this is why you guys are on the show.
That's why I get paid the big bucks.
So what's the difference in the gauge size when it comes to injecting the liquid? What does that do?
One goes, and the other goes, as you're trying to get it through.
Well, it just depends, but otherwise, so the thicker the needle, obviously, the more tissue it has to cut through. So the more potential for micro scar tissue to occur.
Right, because you're going in the same spot.
Yeah, if you continually go in the same spot, then some people start getting chronic irritation. The tissue gets thick as the scar tissue builds up. It gets
You hit an upper layer blood vessel. You can nick it with the smaller ones. That one's going to, and you get a little more of a bleed off from it.
yeah.
Okay.
So over time, the tissue gets more crunchy.
Yeah.
When you start sticking it. So, but
not
that's the
a
biggest
problem.
thing. So the thicker like a lot of other things, the thicker it is, the more it's going to hurt.
There you go. That's funny. So, you said you guys have been doing this for 5 years with Matrix. Mm-hmm. In the 5 years that you guys have done this, how much has this changed? Because that's about how long I've been on TRT. And like peptides were research chemicals only, and now it's being sold by companies like yours.
But yeah, peptides has been out there for a very long time, actually.
Yeah?
Way before the 5 years. It might have been as mainstream or known about, but it's been out there for a very long time. That wasn't just research. Of course, more and more of them are coming out. The landscape is it's become over whether you say 5 or 10 years, it's always becoming much more acceptable, much more understood. Over the last 20 years, it's grown amazingly. Where this was the joke 20 years ago,
Right.
and general medicine is, oh, that's not medicine. They're now scrambling to try to catch up to, because like, well, wait a minute, hey, you know. So, but you've just seen it's grown tremendously, but also due to some different changes in laws, and an executive order was signed many years ago by Trump allowing telemedicine, because we just need lab work for this medicine. You see it; it's just everywhere. You go online and you see all these online people pop up, and they go and come because just you don't know what you're doing. But yeah, it's just been a huge growth, a lot more exposure, a lot more understanding of it, getting rid of the stigmas and the things that are not just understood properly.
Okay, so 2 questions. First one is, with it becoming more, I guess, normalized, when do you recommend people starting to get their hormones checked? Like, at what age should they start considering, like, I should start making this a regular thing?
So the thing with that, somebody would say, well, when you think you have certain symptoms or problems, and I say the opposite, because a lot of times if I speak to somebody who's even in their 40s and they're like, okay, my testosterone is 450. How bad is that? I don't know. I don't know what you were when you were 25. Were you 1,000? Were you 750? What was your number? So somebody who was 1,000 who's 450, probably going to feel pretty bad. That's a huge drop. Somebody that ran 750 to 450, they're still going to feel it, but probably not as much as somebody who was higher. So, I tell people, especially in the mid-20s, get a baseline. Get just one time a good panel on you that reads all these numbers. And then the second part is actually put them somewhere where you can find them later in life,
Right.
and hold on to them, because having that baseline is huge in comparison, understanding you. I will tell you, most people don't. They don't have that. So I usually say the second best thing is in your 30s, because average age for hormones goes between 36 and 40. Some hormones in women, depending on how many children you have, 32 to 36. So I would say mid-30s is a good time to get a in-depth look at yourself.
Okay. Didn't know that. Also, I think it's kind of bullshit that medicine's just like, oh, testosterone, not part of us.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people that I've spoken to that their doctors actually refuse to test their testosterone levels.
That's insane to me.
And I'm like, well, technically you hire the doctor to take care of you,
Right.
not
Right.
the other way around. So, I can understand they're coming to us at that point. But the guys that happens most often to are in their mid-20s, because they have, the classic symptoms of low testosterone. And they get rejected by their doctors because, oh, you're too young. I'm not even going to test you for it. And it's like, but you still can, and you still should.
Yeah.
Because if they're having symptoms, but you can't figure out what the problem is, why not? The doctor's not paying for it.
Right.
You're paying for it. Your insurance is paying for it. You're paying for insurance to pay for it. So, and actually, literally just yesterday or the day before, I got a message from one of our current patients, been with us for over a year. His 19-year-old son actually had been having symptoms for about 6 months of low testosterone. Finally went to his GP, and he demanded his son get his testosterone checked. He's in the mid 300s on his total testosterone.
Wow.
At 19.
Yeah. So,
That's insane.
and I've done research on this as to why, because when I was in high school, I told us a lot. Most guys could grow a full beard like 16, 17, 18.
I've had a full beard since I was 12 years old.
Like chest hair, facial hair. There was a couple of guys that I remember that literally it used to buy beer for everybody because they look like they're 25 to 30,
Yeah.
and only 15. And now you drive by high school and most of the kids, like Justin Bieber, you can't tell if they're, male or female, or they just look very young.
Right.
And the opposite is with the girls. The girls look twice their age, and the boys look half their age.
Huh.
So there's a lot of speculation as to a lot of the chemicals in the foods and plastics and all this kind of
Hormones,
stuff.
antibiotics.
Yeah. And actually, I've read studies on bovine recombinant growth hormone that they give to cows to increase milk production. Well, if you think about it, the growth hormone is stimulating estrogen and prolactin for the cows to produce milk. And originally that it was thought that the processing, homogenization and pasteurization of dairy would destroy the hormones. Well, researchers apparently tested that it may not, that there are some trace amounts that are still left over in the end product, and thinking that through human digestion they would be destroyed. However, through, again, testing, that metabolites are found in urine, meaning that it may actually survive the digestive tract and actually affect your own hormones. So, and then also we're less active as a population with social media and video games and stuff. And physical activity generates testosterone in men. That's why there's so many studies that have shown that intense physical activity, squats, deadlifts, and stuff like that, the heavy lifts, increase testosterone. So the less active we are, the body says, well, we don't have to produce testosterone because we don't have to hunt, we don't have to be aggressive, we don't have to fight for our life.
Until you do.
Yeah, until you do, and then it's too late. You got low testosterone.
Right.
So you're going to run and hide
Scream
like a
and
little girl.
run. Scream and run.
I should have listened to that podcast.
Did you have another question? Because you said two. Or was the second one, fuck that, because they don't do the testing?
Yeah,
for
the second one was
testosterone?
just fuck that.
Okay.
How can you look at a human body and go, you know what, we just produce this as humans, and then reject it?
Yeah.
And fucking big pharma. Oh, it might be depression. Take this.
Yeah.
Take
Well,
that. Let's put you on Prozac.
It's really sad because let's just say you get your doctor to test it.
Right.
And the lab ranges vary, but let's just say 250 to 1,000 for male testosterone. And we're only talking total. Let's not get into free and confuse
Right.
everybody right now. Just total. And it's 250 to 1,000. You get your labs back. You're 255. You're 35-year-old. You have every symptom. Textbook 101, low testosterone. You're a little on the bottom side, but it's okay. You're within normal.
Right.
That's general medicine.
It is. So, because I was going to speak before you did, because you were talking about the way general practitioners are now. I asked Brandon when we interviewed him if you guys have seen changes now, because this is a lucrative thing. The more people start to understand their hormones, the more they want to take care of themselves, especially a guy. We want to make sure our engines are running good, so to speak. I am seeing a lot of small practices starting to dabble and prescribe testosterone. My best friend is getting it from his doctor, and he's the same thing that you said earlier. They're allowing him 100 milligrams a week, and they want him to take one shot, and that's the end of it. And I think he's with his 100 milligrams a week, he's testing in the threes.
So you got two parts there. Let's say they treat you, but they don't, like your friend, they don't treat with enough. So remember, I'm giving you 100 milligrams, your body's going to shut off.
Right.
So does that 100 milligrams give you 500, 600, or in your friend's case, only 300? Really didn't do much for you or very little for you. In some cases, I can make you go backwards.
Right.
I'm giving you enough to shut you down. So the second step to it is, okay, the GP realizes that and says, all right, well, this guy didn't move very much. He's only in the threes. I'm going to give you a little bit more. I got you to 425, 450. You're good now. You're more than enough in the scale. But I still feel 80% of the symptoms. I'm only 20% better. That's it.
Yeah.
And you're stuck.
Kind of shit that makes me want to burn the establishment.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
That's
We got you up 100
unfortunate.
points. I know realistically you should be at like 800, but
Well, just
good.
something to touch on what Sean was saying too is you hear more about it and you're hearing it and seeing it on the news. They don't talk about testosterone as much, but they talk about semen. Semen levels worldwide in men are going down.
of course.
But also testosterone the last 10 years have plummeted. 10 years ago, you look at range values and they're about 350 or so up to as high as 1350.
Yeah.
All are a little different. Now you look and you see some as low as 150 to 850. And you can say, well, that's the range for that, say, hospital or that lab. But then you look around. For most places, I would say the average now is about 250 to 950.
Yeah, it's 950, 980. Is the
Yeah,
tops.
so, and then they would say, okay, well, what research came up with that number? That's just the average number of an 18 to 90-year-old. Our
Found it
levels
on
are dropping. We
Wikipedia.
know it. 10
Yeah.
years ago, testosterone levels were higher. Over the last 10 years, they're dropping. They won't talk about testosterone. You'll hear semen, though. Semen levels in males are dropping worldwide. We don't know why. So that would concern me. Instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to adjust these ranges so he feels good about himself and the numbers, instead of saying, let's find out what's going on. Why is male semen and testosterone dropping?
Right.
But they just adjust the ranges. They also do with certain ranges, they'll adjust the age. So with your testosterone, it'll say 250 to 950 is the range, but then you could look at DHEA or adrenals, and they'll adjust for your age, and say the levels run from an 18 to 90-year-old could be, 25 all the way up to 595. They'll show you 50 to 295 is the range. And you think, well, I'm 75, I'm okay. So
I was going to ask you, with that, the general practice, with the GPs getting in and doing this and dabbling in this, are you guys seeing an insurgence of people leaving their doctors and coming to a specialist? Because I'm one of those people that I drive a Mercedes. Mm-hmm. I'm not taking my car to a buy here, pay here place to have my engine worked on. I want somebody that knows what they're doing with my car to fix my car. It's no difference than my body, which is why I never went to a normal doctor to try to get my TRT. I've always done specialists, quote unquote, because I want somebody that knows what they're doing, and I want them to be able to explain to me. I understand my bloods. I've been doing this long enough that I had my test before you did. And I was like, all right, I'm definitely getting testosterone. Mm-hmm. Like, my levels are low. This is going on. My hematocrit's still high. We had that discussion. And then when I had the discussion with you, I was on cloud 9 because you turned me down, which you'll probably never hear that from anyone else.
yeah, I didn't get that feeling from you, but okay.
I would
No, that's just how he is, I promise.
I was pretty pumped by that.
Yeah, he came into the room and he was like, that man knew more than I knew. He told me things that I didn't know. And he told me no.
Yeah.
He was pretty excited.
But you put my health over $1. So like that means a lot to me. Like, that's important. But with the general practitioners doing what they're doing because they're able to make a little bit doctor visits, like, my friend has to go every month on a doctor visit, and without insurance, that doctor visit's $150 a pop every single time he walks through that door. There's no reason for him to go in there and do that every single month. And I've tried to explain that to him too, and I'm trying to get him to come through here, and he's like, but they're taking my insurance. I'm like, but they're not.
So the part of that is usually what we find, they're not getting the proper care. They're not monitoring estrogens and prolactins and DHT and hemoglobin hematocrit and things like that. So it's dangerous for them. They can throw other things off. There can be inconsistencies with the treatment where I'm going to cut you off at a certain number on top of all the visits. The other thing I try to explain to some, your insurance covers the visit to him, and let's just say the insurance covers your testosterone. If your insurance is covering your testosterone, just like a lot of things, they're covering the cheapest thing, which is testosterone and grapeseed oil.
Right.
Cottonseed.
Yeah.
That's usually what you're going to find is cottonseed. Cottonseed is, and if if somebody says, well, ours is in grapeseed or sesame or NCT oil, all the things you can eat and drink. Well, so that means you can eat cottonseed. I would not advise to do that because you will end up in the hospital and you can die if you eat a cottonseed. It's highly processed into an oil, so they can use it for that. It comes with problems where it can cause inflammation and other issues, trigger autoimmune diseases and things down the road that you might not attribute to it. You've taken this for a long period of time. All of a sudden you start getting joint pain. Well, it's not the testosterone and cottonseed oil. It could be. There's higher allergic reactions to it than the other products. So your insurance might be covering it, but it also might not be the best product for you to get covered in. But it's scary because we're kind of governed by the A4M, which is the anti-aging, the big A4M. If you look it up, it oversees all of this. And if you go to their different conventions, say Vegas is a big one, you'll go there and they'll tell you go to these classes over the next 3 days. And as a doctor or GP, you can then start treating on this when you go back. I've sat through those classes, and I'm going like, oh my God, I am scared for whoever's going to see these people. It's a good basis, but there's just not enough time in 3 days to have that knowledge. And I'm sitting there going like, if I just had this, there's no way you can treat properly. But that's what they do.
Sounds like the tattoo industry, doesn't it?
I'm going to be honest. I tuned out some of that because I'm just fucking disgusted right now.
Yeah, she was looking angry over there.
Talk about medical negligence.
Yeah.
We have a gender of men who are saying there is something wrong with us. And they're like, we got you up 100 points. Oh, you can't afford it. Well, let's mix it with this and hopefully it just works out for you. Oh, you're having side effects from that. Well, let's add this to that and hopefully it negates it.
Well, it's the lack of education and understanding. So technically from a medical, like it used to be anyway, medical perspective, for a therapeutic dose of testosterone, you had to get a minimum of 800 on your total. But again, because the ranges have been adjusted over the years, because the population testosterone levels are declining, they shifted the range over to accommodate that. So rather than trying to say, well, like Ken was saying, there's a problem, let's try to figure out why everybody's levels are declining, we'll just shift the numbers so that everybody fits in that range.
Wow.
You know, because, yeah, it used to be, like you said, that I think it was back in 2017 was when the shift change on the ranges occurred. But prior to that, I think they went up to almost 1,300, 1,250, something like that.
Depends on labs between 1250 and 1350.
Yeah.
And it's the bottom number, the low, moved down from about 350 or so to about 250. But you'll find hospitals are the worst. You'll find the lowest, like 150 to 800 at a hospital. So if you're going into a hospital, there's rarely anything wrong with you because you got to almost be dead, be
Yeah.
a zombie to match some of their values.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So, but it opens up a whole other can of worms with what they call EDCs, or the endocrine disrupting chemicals. And there's kind of a loose term. There's not, there's really not a lot of research into it, but I've listened to some lectures on it, that these endocrine disrupting chemicals can actually occupy the androgen receptor, therefore blocking testosterone from attaching to the receptor and being able to act on that receptor. So in some cases that it would turn into testosterone resistance in a way. So a similar concept to insulin resistance, where you actually have to have a higher number of testosterone in order to get the same effect.
Okay, so I'm processing everything you just said. That's a lot for me to take in. Did you say that that's something that's adhering to the receptors, that's blocking the testosterone? That's something that's in our food?
Yes, and it also affects women too. So endocrine disrupting chemicals.
Okay.
I mean, there are so many chemicals that are widely known for that. Now, to be honest with you, it happens more in women than men because some of the chemicals that are in that classification include parabens. Parabens are a very common chemical used to preserve cosmetics.
Right.
So and women are the biggest consumers of cosmetics.
Right.
So there are some specialists or some people in the hormone industry that believe that the increased rise of breast cancer in women is more associated with these chemicals than it is the actual hormones.
And to throw out an example that's more, let's just say, because somebody could say conspiracy theories or that's your thoughts, no real evidence. So let's use something that is very well known. Chickens for 50 years, arsenic they use to get rid of parasites. Doesn't stay in the tissues. They're not absorbing it to pass it on to you and you don't have it. Well, as you know, they found out it does pass on to us. And here in the United States, you will not find any chickens treated with arsenic anymore. Do we sell chickens to other countries that we do that with? Yes, because their laws are not as strict as ours. And we'll still sell them that knowing arsenic passes on. But our laws are stricter, so we won't do it here. For 50 years, it says the arsenic does not stay in the tissues and doesn't pass to humans, but it did. So now you have all of these other things that there's clear views on. Females, very simple. This is something you can't argue about. It's medical proof. It's very well researched. Females are developing earlier menstrual cycles in their breast. Very well proven. Males are developing later. I'm not saying there's something specifically targeting us that way. That's just the way it's affecting us as a whole. And then you say, well, wait a minute, male testosterone and semen is going down. What's happening here?
Right.
So very interesting. And a lot of what he's saying, could it be food, antibiotics, hormones? Is it intentional, not intentional? Is it our water? Who knows? It's probably a little bit of everything. But nobody seems too concerned about it.
Right.
Too many coinky dinks.
I like that word.
Yeah.
It is, but then that's kind of like what he's saying, what I mentioned earlier, is the physical changes in younger kids these days. So when I started working in a GNC at 19, I only left the natural health industry for a little while when I worked in a hospital. But being disgusted with healthcare, that I went back to it. And being in that industry, I would come across parents of kids. The most disturbing cases that I remember was parents trying to figure out what to do with their daughter at 6 years old, started her period.
At 6?
Yeah. And doctors couldn't figure it out. And then I had another couple that their 12-year-old daughter was developing cysts in her breasts.
At 12 years old?
Yeah.
I need a minute. Hang on.
So
What would I do? Our 6-year-old daughter comes to me. She doesn't even understand the concept of what menstruating is.
let alone her own body. That's what they were struggling with, is how, because here their daughter comes crying thinking she's dying.
Right. That's
So
terrifying.
We got 13-year-olds that start a menstrual cycle and think that. Can you imagine a 6-year-old?
I started mine when I was
we have
11.
we have a 4-year-old, so we can't imagine. That's horrifying.
Yeah. So it's, and that's why at that time it really opened my eyes to what is really occurring that's causing that.
Here's a thought. So you said 50 years on the arsenic thing, right? They say a generation is 20 years. Mm-hmm. So we have almost 3 generations of people who have been ingesting that. Mm-hmm. And if it's taken that long for them to figure out that it does get into our system, all of the other things that we're doing, like cooking food in a microwave that's in plastic, we know that the BPAs in that can leak and create testicular issues, right? But they've done absolutely nothing to correct that unless you start buying BPA-free plastics. And because of the usage of microwaves being fast and everybody's in a hurry all the time, that's going to continue to make things worse. Mm-hmm. At what point, oh man, I guess it's really not even you guys' questions, but at what point do you think that this is going to be studied enough? Like we know the effect of estrogen on a woman. We know that if they have a hysterectomy, you have to put them on estrogen, and like there's things that go on, my mom did anyway. She had to get patches after she had her hysterectomy. But the hormone levels on a woman is not studied the way that it is on a man up until recently. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of what you guys are doing. So when do you guys think that this is going to become studied and well-known enough that this is no longer going to be
taboo?
Hey, don't tell nobody, but I just started my testosterone replacement therapy. Like, cause that's where we're at,
So from 20 years ago, it's considerably better by leaps and bounds, considerably better. Now you would say, well, wait a minute, you were just saying a whole lot of negative. But it's considerably better than where it was. I would hope it would change quickly, but looking at a lot of things that have happened in the last few years, pandemics and all the things that came along with that, I'd probably say it's going to be another 20 years that maybe we'll get there. But it's, I don't understand it. There's things still that's taught in medical school, taught 20 years ago, it's taught today, that was taught 20 years before that makes no sense. That it's just like here's the basic information, that'll get you your degree, go out and keep studying and further your education. Somebody just went to school for 8 to 10 years, they're $150,000 in debt. They're getting out of school and they're going to go practice and try to make as much money as they can.
Right.
And you have to realize too, and I'm not saying every, say, general medicine is like this, but when you take insurance, the way you make money off insurance, because we don't take insurance dictates, you sign contracts with insurance company, dictates some of the treatment, some type of lab work. If you don't do things the proper way, you can lose your contracts with the insurance. That's how you're making your money. Mm-hmm. Your billing department costs you about 40% of what you're making. So how do I make money as a general practitioner doctor? More patients I see, the faster I see them, the quicker I turn them over, I make more money. And I think our appointment went 35, 40 minutes.
We were almost an hour on the phone.
So I lose track of time. But a lot of appointments like that usually are 30 minutes to an hour. GPs, you go in there, if they can get you out in 2 minutes, they're getting you out in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Don't ask questions, just be here, go. And that's part of the system of the wheel of insurance, of them trying to make money. And general medicine is, it's reactive. I come in, I'm dying, save my life. We try to also be proactive. How can we avoid you getting sick in the future? How can you stay healthy? How can we keep you safe now? And there's a lot of examples I can give you, and one of them have to do with women. It just blows my mind. But hopefully one day it'll change, but I don't see it anytime soon. Mm.
So now you need to give that example of women, because my curiosity speaks.
Like
I know. We can have you here talking for the next 2 days. But it's basically with women. Let's say you go into your doctor. Woman goes into her doctor all the time with all the classical symptoms of high estrogen, heavy PMS, bloated and swelling, sore breast, and things like that. Doctor tests your estrogen. Well, the scales for estrogen, which once again you can find all over the place, and some of them are crazy. Could say estradiol, the main estrogen that makes a woman, as low as 19.5 and as high as 400. Let's just say you're 350. You go in, you have all the symptoms. Well, it's in normal levels. It's in normal levels. Lose some weight, eat better, exercise. Okay. You do that for a year. Then you come back. Ooh, we think you might have cancer. We need to figure out if you have cancer, do the testing. As soon as they start to find out if you have any type of cancer, we're going to give you something to block your estrogens, because estrogens, especially when they're high, causes cancerous growth. So now we're going to give you something to move that estrogen down to the lower side. We're going to put you on the lower third. You as a woman say, but wait a minute. You said estrogen makes me a woman. Leave my estrogen alone before. Oh, no, but if you're in the lower third of that level, that's all you need to be a woman and function correctly. My thing would be, well, why the hell did you do that in the first place?
Right.
Well, you didn't have cancer. So you waited till something occurred. Now, some people would say that pays for the chemotherapy and the medical bills and keeps the lights on in all the doctors' offices. Other people would say it's just uneducated doctors or misdiagnosis, but it really, to me, is they're being reactive. They're waiting till something happens, and then they react to it instead of saying, hey, let me lower her estrogen some, get rid of her symptoms, make it safe for her. She's still going to be a woman, going to give her that much estrogen, and that blows my mind.
Do you think a lot of that boils down to, like, this has been their field for 30 years? They've seen hundreds of thousands of millions of people, and it's just the same story and over again. Mm-hmm. And maybe they know the over-exaggerated from the not-so, and now everything's over-exaggerated to them, so they just take it at the lowest level.
Yeah, and part of that, another word where they're desensitized to it.
Yeah.
And you're going to get some people who don't care, and it's all about the money. Mm-hmm. You're going to get some people who are uneducated. And you got some people that just come desensitized, and whatever she's complaining about, divide by 5, and that's probably her problem.
Okay.
And it's just sad. You should look at every case as somebody as they have a problem. Sometimes you get people who are more sensitive to symptoms or they over-exaggerate, but there's just so many examples. You can keep going down the road like that for a female, which I think is horrible. You can do it with males in all of these different situations.
Yeah, I had a case of a woman that told me her story that after about 5 years ago into her doctor, frequently for her symptoms, her doctor literally told her to her face, you're just looking for attention, and gave her a card for a psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
Manic woman syndrome.
Well, it's funny because when we deal with men and women and we train the other specialists, men and women, you deal with them differently.
Right.
With men, we just kind of talk, shoot, do it. That's it. Yeah, and that's the way we deal with things. And Sean will testify to the first thing we tell specialists when we train is listen first. Listen to what that woman is telling you. She's going to give you a description, and you're going to pick up on things that might not fully be visible in the lab work. You can put it together. Okay, you're a man, you're based off testosterone. She's a woman, she's based off estrogen. Oh, it's much deeper than that.
Right.
When it comes to females, there's a whole nother balance of estrogens, progesterones, estrogens, testosterones, but also the way it affects them. Us, we have numbers that move all over the place. I don't feel anything. They get something that goes off 1 point, and they could rip your face off. It's just...
I love that I'm being validated as such a complex creature, and it's not just me.
Women are very sensitive, very complex. But that's the balance between men and women, too, in relationships is men are supposed to be the logical one, and women are the emotional one.
Yeah.
And that's why women tend to rely on the men to be masculine. Mm-hmm. And when you have a man that is low testosterone, that is not masculine, that is acting like a woman, it doesn't jive well. So.
Yeah, that's a whole different podcast, brother.
I know.
That we would need at least, like he said, another 2 days for that conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. I'm here for that conversation.
There's so much running through my brain, like the way relationships are structured now with women being more masculine and the food that we're being pushed and the lack of testosterone treatment and things. Oh, gosh.
I have two things that I wanted to get into, but I didn't want to interrupt you because you guys were bringing up really good points. Do you think that the way that treatment is done with doctors who take insurance moving into this field that doesn't take insurance are ingrained in that, get them in and get them out? And are you seeing that a lot in your field? Because that conversation with you was more thorough than any of the previous conversations that I've had with any other hormone clinics. And I've dealt with a few of them. Mm-hmm. That was part of the reason why I was so hyped when I hung the phone up. Mm-hmm. And I know that, I know you think that it might have been very monotone. I was pretty pumped when I hung the phone up. Because I appreciate that. I appreciate the information and the time that you took to actually talk to me. And like the other places were like this, and this, we're going to give you this. It's going to be this much and have a great day. And 15 minutes on the phone is not enough to give me information, especially for somebody who doesn't understand or have done the research. I'm like you are. I don't have the degrees, but I will research everything because I want to know everything. So like if I am talking to somebody that knows more than me, I'm going to listen. And if they, like you mentioned, the blocking of the testosterone, when we get home, I'm going to deep dive into that because I've never heard of that being, the receptors being blocked like that. That's the first time I've ever heard that. So now I have to go and do that research. But for you to be able to take the time to actually talk to me, if you have new patients that are afraid that their friends or their family is going to shun them for taking TRT, and they now have information to give their partners or their parents or whatever, that's going to go a long way in helping that stigma. So I guess my original question was, do you see that people are coming from the general practitioner field, getting into the specialized thing, and that not giving that customer service that you guys are giving? Is that?
Yeah, it's kind of a two-part answer, because customer service, you know what it's like dealing with a regular doctor's office.
Right.
You're an insurance, you're a number, we get you in and out. It's not about anything else. I'm not, there's you get somebody who's nice on the phone, but usually most doctors' offices, there's not somebody there making sure there's customer service and everything's running right. You have an office manager, but they're not overly concerned about that because they feel like, I'm a doctor, they need a doctor, I take their insurance.
Right.
They got to come to me. The second part is the care. You have good doctors, you have bad doctors. No, there's some GPs that understand this and they get it. Once again, they can prescribe you, your insurance covers it, and you're still getting a product that might not be the best with the cottonseed.
Right.
But yeah, I do see that. Unfortunately, I would say the biggest thing is a lot of people will do this, and sometimes it's not that they're just bad GPs, and it's not just that they don't understand it. They sometimes don't realize they don't fully understand it. They got enough information, think, I got it, and they don't. And as you know, when you deal with certain doctors, they can have certain personalities, and so it's very difficult when you talk to them to tell them otherwise. And so it's unfortunate, but yes, this field is growing with general medicine because a dollar can be made, and or they just don't realize they don't know they don't have the right information.
I couldn't imagine having a little bit of information and going, all right, that's good. I know what I'm talking about.
It's a Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, can you imagine watching a video on how to tattoo somebody and saying, okay, now I know how to tattoo somebody?
We see that all the time.
We do, yeah. Constantly.
And we make a lot of money off of those clients when they come in and go, hey, my friend did this. And I'm like, cover-ups cost 3 times as much as it would have cost you to do it right the first time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And,
So-
well, that's what happens in medicine too, is that like Ken was saying, you can have a great doctor. There are doctors that will finish at the top of their class, and they're fantastic doctors. But then you can get a doctor that finishes at the bottom of his class, and he's still a doctor.
Right.
So there's different grades. But like you said, when you're talking about cars, you want someone that knows how to work on your type of car.
Yep.
And the same with what we do, and that's why that we will get people coming to us because they're not happy with the service or treatment they're getting from their GP. And, I tell people too is GPs are great, but for general medicine, because that's what is part of the position.
Right.
It's general, it's not specialized. So that's why a brain surgeon is going to make 10 times more money a year than a GP is.
Right.
So you're not going to ask your GP to do surgery on your brain.
Right. So the other question that I had was, we've all heard that men mature slower than women. Now that we know what you guys were talking about earlier with the way the hormones are going, do you think that that's going to make it worse on our maturity levels? Because there's got to be some sort of, hormones affect your brain function. They handle the way you respond to things, whether you're overly emotional or void of emotion. So do you think that that's going to create, because this, we do a lot of relationship stuff in our podcast, and a lot of men don't want to work anymore. They don't have the gumption to get out and do shit. They're very lazy.
Well, their testosterone's low.
Yeah,
Right. I have been preaching that for a long time.
And that's a wrap, guys.
So I literally have men that, will take them from their testosterone from 300 to around 1,000. I find most guys feel best between 1,000 and 1,200. Our target range is 800 to 1,200. And everybody's going to respond a little bit different. Some need a little bit less, some need a little bit more. I've had guys feel amazing going from 350 to 500, and then they're like, a whole new man. But I've had literally wives get on the phone as I'm talking to the husband and saying, thank you for giving me my husband back. Because yes, the testosterone gives men and women too motivation and drive to go out and do things. And it makes, so Andrew Huberman made a great statement, is testosterone makes effort feel good. So it makes you want to go out and do things.
Right.
So, and as the male gender, technically that, we're the hunters and warriors and all that, that's what we did, is we went out for our family and protected our family. That's what made us men.
Right.
It made us masculine. So having low testosterone, a man is going to have lesser of those qualities. And those qualities are like in our genes almost. So, and we deal with a lot of veterans too, because VAs, it's almost impossible to get TRT treatment from a VA.
Right.
So we'll get a lot of veterans. The lowest testosterone I seen in a vet was in the 60s. And couldn't believe it, but anyway, a lot of these guys, after serving, come from overseas, come back, they're suffering from PTSD, and put on half a dozen different types of medication for depression, anxiety, can't sleep, all kinds of stuff. And I would say every single one of them that I've helped was either able to decrease all those medication or discontinue completely after 3 months.
That's insane.
I love that.
That's insane when you hear that number.
Right.
Like that's insane. The men do really well when we have a purpose. You give a man a goal that he has to work for. You're going to see the best side of that man until he reaches that goal, and then he's going to, now what? I'm depressed. I don't have nothing to do. What am I going to do?
Well, yeah, let's find another goal. But that's actually why statistically that men die quicker after retirement than women.
Right. Because we no longer have anything to work for.
Purpose.
Yep.
Lower testosterone definitely, besides motivation, can make us less social. Let's say you liked always going out, hanging out with friends and things like that. Then the wife says, hey, let's go out. And I'm just going to stay home. Oh, you're being lazy. We literally become less social with lower testosterone. It can happen to women too. Women are a little more estrogen based, but testosterone is very important for them. And another big word that's thrown around a lot is the toxic masculinity. Oh, my husband's going to take testosterone. He's going to be toxic. Usually toxic masculinity, you can inherit it. It can be genetically passed down to you, but it's usually how you raised, how it came from, not as much your testosterone level. Because if that was true, every male teenager would be toxic because their levels are through the roof.
We actually don't believe in toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
You're either a piece of shit human being or you're not.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
And it's words are thrown around nowadays, and then you try to use them to blame or pinpoint certain things. But that's with women, because we get a lot of wives will talk to us when we're treating a husband. And we get a couple of things. One, well, is he going to be very toxic or aggressive and things like that? And the other thing is they'll start to treat. The husband starts feeling better. The libido starts going up. And then the wife realizes, because we're very good as humans at adapting. We evolve well. It's like, wait a minute. I used to be the same level as him when we're younger. Now he's back to normal. Why don't I have the libido or the drive or the energy? And they start identifying. As humans, we're very good at adapting to a situation and evolving, that we don't realize sometimes how bad we feel. Somebody could tell me, I feel a little bit off, I just want to check my things. But if I can magically snap my fingers and make you back to 25, you go, oh my God, I felt awful and didn't even know it.
Yep.
Women are very good at that. And because it's all about, yes, men taking care of the family, but in the background, women, caregiver, always taking care of, thinking everybody before them, got to keep going. And women a lot of times can drive their self or their hormones and numbers in the ground worse than men when we're seeing them. And then the problem is the process is more complicated, and so it's more delicate balance, and you have to move slower with women. So it's just it's a more tedious process with women, and they have to be more patient, and it's very difficult.
I'm sitting over here, like earlier, I was like, oh, thank God, I'm just complex. I'm a woman. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm complex. I'm a woman. This is going to take so much longer for me than it did for you.
It's funny. Our Discord community is 1,000 people, and I would probably say 85% of them are female. And I know the male hormone side fairly well. I'm not an expert, but I know enough to be dangerous. I don't know anything about that. And I would like to have that discussion, because we do know that women's hormones are very different than men. So just can you elaborate or talk about any of that at all?
As far as using oxandrolone in women,
Yeah, just the usages of it, or I mean, you can even talk about the hormones. I don't really care. I just want to involve the women's side of our Discord channel and not just make this about men.
Well, I think we did jump in there a lot with female
Yeah.
things, but oxandrolone I would consider separate than a hormonal
Okay.
treatment. It would be, if she came in and had a hormone problem, it would be estrogens, progesterones, testosterones, adrenals, things like that. Oxandrolone is used to treat it was severe malnutrition, but also injuries, brain damage, nervous system, where you're losing tissue quickly.
Okay.
So you take it to regain that tissue. Primarily, it's tissue. Secondary, it's joint or bone. You have another product called nandrolone decanate, not really used by women. That's primarily joint and bone, secondary tissue. But there are women that use it that can help them with joint pains and injuries and different things I have. It can, some people say, oh, you take oxandrolone to lose weight. Yes, the research shows you can lose a little bit of weight on it, but I would never consider it a weight loss medication. Can it build up some lean muscle tissue on you? It absolutely could, but its main purpose is for injuries. What I would call, it's weird, they call it a side effect. I'll call it a byproduct, because anybody that gains lean muscle from a medication that they're trying to fix an injury
Right.
is a good thing, but it can create a lean muscle. It's usually a very mild type of steroid that is very easy on the body. Females, unlike males, can take a very small amount and get results with it where there's rarely side effects. Now, of course, with anything, there can be side effects,
Right.
very mild on the kidneys and things like that. It can have a little bit of an impact. Once again, not so much on females, but on HDL cholesterol and LDL. HDL is the good that it can lower a little bit, and LDL is the bad that it can raise it a little bit. For most patients, especially females, you don't see too much of that. If you do, it's not something that's permanent. If you stop it, if you're having some type of reaction, it goes away right away.
Okay, so then that would be more for somebody who has bad joints.
Bad joints, muscles, tears. There's some patients who have some different disorders, chronic pain and fibromyalgia, and different things like that. Really good for. Byproduct is, yes, it can also give you some lean muscle tissue, maybe lose a little bit of weight.
yeah, those are medical purposes of it. But being in the fitness community, where that's where my passion is.
Right.
That it is known that women that use it long term, it will start really suppressing progesterone and estrogen.
Okay.
So it's not recommended for women to use long term.
So that's actually really good to know. The fibromyalgia thing, I didn't know that. That's the first time I've ever heard that. Can you talk about that at all?
Anything that deals with tissue breakdown and tissue pain,
Okay.
it can help with, but everybody is a different degree.
I may have to have
how
my
much.
mom get a hold of these guys.
Yeah.
My mom has fibromyalgia. She actually just had a double bypass too. She's a medical mess right now. But
Yeah, well, fibromyalgia, I wrote a research paper on that in college, very complex. But that was like 20 years ago, so it's probably a lot more information now. But it's not well understood because it's kind of like a disconnection or dysfunction between the nervous and the muscular system. So the nerves become very excited or overactive, the pain receptors, and it's difficult to control. Working in the natural health industry, there is a lot of speculation that may be due to heavy metal toxicity.
oh,
And from my experience, is most of the people I came across, I would say 80 to 90%, mostly women, that were diagnosed with fibromyalgia had silver fillings.
had what?
Silver fillings.
Oh, in their teeth.
Yes.
Old school fillings.
Yeah,
remember?
yeah.
Huh.
Amalgams. And it's actually known that there's silver fillings. So it actually is an alloy that uses mercury. And we know that mercury is toxic or poisonous. However, when you combine it with the other metals, forming an alloy, it creates a bond. However, mercury is one of the few that causes the term is galvanized, or it has a galvanizing effect so that it starts repelling. So whatever was bound to over time, that bond weakens and then it begins to repel and separate.
That's a whole lot of new information.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Last question, because we talked about this a little bit too. Can you talk about the effects of semaglutide with somebody who has PCOS?
Yeah, so PCOS can be insulin driven, but when you have PCOS, it can drive insulin resistance, which could make PCOS much worse, much more painful, and progress. So semaglutide originally being created for diabetes, high glucose, prediabetes, and insulin resistance. When it brings those numbers down, therefore it can help PCOS in many patients. Night and day. I have some patients on it. It's like, oh my God, I didn't know how I was going to live like this for the rest of my life, where they're almost completely back to normal. Now, everybody, when you hear semaglutide, or that's the generic for Ozempic, you think, oh, that's a weight loss drug. Oh yeah, it was approved a few years ago for weight loss, but originally, many years, it was for diabetes and things like that. So the way it works is by bringing down those insulin resistance levels, which either can drive PCOS or PCOS makes those levels worse, and it's a wheel that it just continues to get worse, and it can break that cycle. So besides losing some weight on it, you can control that. Now also, a lot of people don't realize this, metformin has been used for 12 years now, at least,
For PCOS?
for anti-aging.
Oh, probably. It's at least 10 years, if not longer.
People say, well, wait a minute. Okay, metformin can help you lose a little weight, and it's for diabetes. Insulin glucose levels come down.
Right.
Same thing with semaglutide. You lower the insulin glucose levels. You can help long-term when you're taking it, slow and reverse aging, just like they've used metformin for. So metformin is used mainly for diabetes, but for also weight loss and then anti-aging purposes. They're starting to find semaglutide can be used for that. PCOS, I think I mentioned to you, they're looking more into alcoholism, drug addiction. And then we were discussing another medication that's made for non-alcoholic liver disease, that the medication had a 48% success rate in saving your liver. Now when they found they mix it with semaglutide, it had about an 84% success rate. And they said over the next couple of years, as they perfected non-alcoholic or accidental, like you're in an accident and damage to a liver, was going to be a thing of the past, just like when hepatitis used to kill us.
Right.
That's going to be gone.
That's insane.
Yeah, just more and more they're seeing what this product can do and the effects of it.
Wow.
Sean was on metformin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, metformin being used in the longevity community is because it lowers glucose. And pretty much all animal models have shown that lower glucose levels increase longevity. So because insulin can stimulate the production of IGF-1, insulin growth factor, which then stimulates mTOR, which a lot of the anti-aging research is done on mTOR as well as IGF. So it's kind of like a downward pathway as far as how it works.
When you go back to eat less carbs and definitely get rid of processed sugars, same theory, except you're using something to do it for you.
Yeah.
Even though you should eat less carbs and less sugar. But
Yeah.
It's a lot of information. I wish there was like a rewind button or like subtitles.
Well, there will definitely be a rewind button, and if AJ does his job properly, there will be subtitles too. So we'll be able to.
well, this was just the introduction. Now we go ahead and start with. Go ahead.
Yeah. I actually could do this all day long.
yeah, I've actually been really enjoying this conversation.
Especially since I mentioned the women part about it, right?
Oh yeah, I really feel
You're
included.
not raving maniacs. It's just the way it works.
It's good information though. Again, a lot of our listeners, most of our listeners are female, so
Yeah, they are.
it actually. I mean, we are getting more and more men starting to listen because they realize that they're the problem. But as they're realizing that the better they are, the better their women are going to be. People are starting to pay attention on both sides. But our main follower base is primarily women, so it is good to have that information for them.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, a key word is something there. You said pay attention. We men are just not meant to pay attention as much as women. And it's really, whether it's about our health, pay attention. It's about our job, pay attention. But we always put the last thing, our wives and our family.
Right.
Got to pay attention because that's who's going to take care of you in the end. And we're just sort of built like that, where we're deal with the problems in front of us and you just keep going.
Yep.
And it's realizing we have to take care of ourselves. We have to take care of our health. Taking care of our family takes care of us to keep going and to make us happy. And,
It's like he listens to our podcast.
no, I've just done a lot of things wrong in my life.
Yeah.
I finally
Same.
learned.
Same.
I got here the hard way. So,
Do you have anything else that you want to ask them? I'd like to wrap this up so that they're not.
No questions. I think that this episode is, if you haven't thought about getting your hormones checked, fucking do it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a young man. Hearing that a 19-year-old was in 300s for their testosterone blows my mind.
Yeah.
And the scary part with that is that there's certain males and females, they never set properly during puberty. And so they're then ignored and not treated. And sometimes we end up with them in their 20s. And when you treat them, it's not like, okay, I treat it and you say, hey, I feel better now. I feel back to normal. They never knew what normal was. Their normal is what they could have been 300 all of puberty. So now when they're at the right number, they're like, oh my God, I've never felt like this in my life, because they never experienced it.
Yeah.
And they were ignored because they were young. You can't have a problem. You can't beat testosterone. So those to me blow my mind. It's hard for me to wrap around how, we say, well, I used to feel better when I'm younger. Now I feel like this.
Right.
I never felt that way. And now I do as a human. Like, it's hard to imagine.
Yeah, just a real quick spin off that I actually had a guy that was 26 years old, told me that he never felt like he actually went through puberty. Can't grow any facial hair, hardly any body hair, and admitted that he felt he had micropenis. But he had a wonderful girlfriend, loves him and all that kind of stuff. They had a great relationship, he said, but he just never felt like a man. And after being on treatment, for the first time in his life, he started growing facial hair.
That's a big deal for a guy.
I'm getting ready to start crying.
That-
I could not imagine being a man into my 20s feeling like an absolute failure,
Yeah.
because I am not feeling the way that I should.
Yeah.
And my whole life.
I'm conditioned not to tell anybody.
Right.
Well, yeah, because the same thing is just refused by doctors previously. And I don't remember what his testosterone levels were, but they were obviously low, especially to not have, physically developed or matured like we were discussing earlier. Guys used to just be full of hair and everything and very masculine. So he finally felt like he was becoming a man. And that was like the best thing that he said has ever happened.
That's crazy. Men will fuck with other men who can't grow a beard.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Like,
It's funny because there's like memes on that where it shows guys,
The different levels of hair, what
yeah.
a beard is.
Well,
That's
guys,
not really a beard.
when one of their friends gets wasted or drunk, they're taking a marker, writing a penis on their face and taking
Yeah.
pictures. All kind of. When their best friend is drunk, she's holding her hair over the toilet.
Oh my God, you got this,
Hey.
babe. You still look hot. Like, you're doing it.
You're total opposites.
I've heard that.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you
But yeah,
have.
guys are relentless.
Yeah. That's what makes us different, though. I mean,
That's
it's what makes us who we are, makes our relationships with men. That's a normal thing. Like, we're ball busters. And if you can't have that relationship with your friends and you have your male friends holding your hair back in your face telling you you're hot while you're puking, it's just not really a thing.
Well, I don't have much hair, but if
Me
I
either.
woke up and somebody was trying to hold my hair while I was throwing it up, we gonna fight.
Yeah. My hair grows everywhere except for right here.
Exactly.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, it should be.
So I actually have one more question.
Okay.
So as a mom, my son, very young, he just turned 5. Knowing that there are already issues in young men today with their testosterone, what is something that I can do as a mom to ensure that his puberty can be as natural as possible?
Organic.
Okay.
Most
If
of the
you're,
organic
is organic, staying away from all the McDonald's and processed foods, constantly keeping that junk away from him, and
Okay.
sugars, lots of processed sugars. As far as from a medical standpoint, I would probably say by 12 years old, just getting routine testing. Just
Okay.
testing. Test your HGH levels, your growth hormone levels, and your testosterone levels, and make sure something hasn't affected him.
Okay.
That he's going, because once you go past puberty, that's it. We can
Yeah.
try to correct it to a certain extent, but you just lost something that you're not going to get back.
So you're saying that parents should have their hormones levels checked in their kids while they're like preteens?
Well, yeah. So usually they say if you don't see a problem, they're developing, they're growing, and all the normal things are happening. You really don't have to do anything.
Right.
But if you feel like, hey, I got 2 parents that are over 6 feet tall, I have little Johnny here that doesn't seem to be growing.
Right.
He's not developing properly. Even could be having some type of, and it's hard to tell because when you're talking about kids and teenagers about their mental health. But these are all the things I would look for. Let's start with the basics. They're going through puberty. Are their testosterone levels going up? Are their growth hormone levels going up like they're supposed to? it's not just a phase. It's just a phase. It's just a phase. Sometimes it's not.
So already knowing that it's hard for adults to go to a general practitioner and say, I need help with my test. Like, will you test this or whatever? I'm less inclined to believe that a pediatric doctor would be like, oh yeah, let's go. Let's test your 12-year-old son. Mm-hmm. So is that something I can come to you guys for? Would you be willing to test a minor for his testosterone?
No, it's different because it's out of our scope of practice.
Okay.
Because of how there's certain medical guidelines you have to follow and legalities, and under 18, it's like a whole different, species per se when you're talking medical, and it's usually with a pediatric doctor.
Okay.
There are parents that literally wait for us. He's going to be 18 tomorrow, or she's going to be 18, and then we test and look for things to help them. What we do is we try to guide the parents to say, ask for this or ask for that from the doctor. Well, the doctor doesn't want to run it. Now, I'm not saying for anybody to do what I'm about to say. I'm going to give you my personal experience of what I've done. I've went in to see a specialist many years ago. I had health issues. I have some weird autoimmune diseases. I go in and I'm like, they should run these tests. They never want to run these tests. I figure out what symptoms help me get those tests done. Maybe I want to, make sure I'm not going to have a heart attack. Well, I'm a little short of breath and I got some chest pain and I'm feeling lightheaded and I'm getting some ringing in the ears. Okay, well, we got to do this for you. Check your heart. It's my health. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my health taken care of. And sometimes, yes, for me, that was exaggerating a little bit in my particular case of my symptoms to make sure I was getting the proper care. It's sad.
I was going to say, how abysmal is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're working with a 23-year-old girl that had been put on birth control at 12 years old. And her first lab test results, her testosterone was almost non-existent, and her progesterone and estrogen were so low they didn't measure.
Wow. That's actually insane to hear, because we were talking prior about a 6-year-old starting her period. I started mine when I was 11. Yeah. And the month after I started, my mom put me on birth control.
Oh, God, don't get me started on birth control. Oh, God.
Oh,
God, I got to go now. You're going to throw me out.
Yeah.
So that's actually really useful information to have.
Yeah.
And actually answer some questions that I have.
Yeah,
about myself.
That's a whole other rabbit hole to go into, but a lot of people like us that are in this hormone industry will say that birth control is probably the worst thing that happened to women.
It is.
Okay.
Except for controlling birth, it's the worst thing that's happened to women.
All right, so all of the moms out there thinking about putting your preteen on birth control, maybe second guess that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll probably see their preteen when they're early or mid-20s because their hormones are shot in their basket case.
Yeah.
But if you don't want that, I would probably...
obviously
control.
It's not, that doesn't happen to everybody.
Right.
But, obviously if you're given hormone treatment at a very young age, you're more likely, the younger you are being put on it, the more likely you're going to have issues as you get older.
We'd also always, because years go by, how do you attribute what you had something at 21 because you took birth control since you're 12? I took it all those years, nothing happened. You don't know. But that goes back to the stigma of testosterone.
Right.
Look up the side effects of testosterone. Look at the research that's coming out from Cleveland Clinic and Mayo, these credible clinics. Say, you know what, testosterone doesn't cause cardiovascular disease, and it actually can strengthen your heart. We have all of this evidence, but birth control has been pushed on women forever. Look up the side effects of birth control. Birth control is handed out like Tic Tacs. But look at the side effects of clots and heart disease and death. But hey, we're just going to pass them out. They're accepted, widely accepted, and they're fine.
So is that like all birth control that you feel that way about? Or is there one that's not as bad as the others?
Copper IUDs
Okay.
is non-hormonal.
Copper IUD.
It's a non-hormonal because they have Mirena, which is a hormonal. It's a very low amount. So when you start talking about, there are ones that are worse than others. If someone was on a IUD, Mirena, it would be the lowest. The copper would be the best. Some people couldn't take it, but just like any medications, there's some birth control is better than others, but across the board, I don't agree with them, and I don't agree how widely they're given out for just different reasons. Sort of like antidepressants with men.
Yo, fucking don't get me
I
started
have
on
no
that.
testosterone, but let me give you an antidepressant.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's how a lot of women are treated HRT with birth control. And
That's crazy.
The big issue is because they're synthetic hormones. They're not bioidentical. But yeah.
So we're about 20 minutes past the point of you wanting to wrap this up.
Well, I said that because I know that I do this.
Yeah.
We were an hour past wrap up. So
Really?
yeah, we went 3.5 hours, almost 4 hours when he was at the house. So
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
that's
cut
right,
it
we
down to
did.
2.5 hours. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to come and talk to us. This was informational and a lot of fun for me. So
This was super dope. Thank you guys for doing this.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, we love doing this. We love talking to people like you, but also getting the message out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
lot
that's
of
the
people.
biggest thing is trying to give that information out to increase awareness. Because the biggest thing that as a population we need to do is take control of our own health. And that's why we're growing so rapidly, is because the regular medical community is failing our general population.
And you're your best advocate for your health. You go in and people will ask doctors stuff, and whatever they tell you, okay, no. You ask and you push. And if your doctor gets, persnippety with you and wants to cut you off, he's a lousy doctor. Don't go to him. If he can't answer your questions, and most of the time when they can't, they cut you off or belittle you, he's not a good doctor anyway. You don't need to be with him. You're your best advocate. Push and ask. Do your own research and do what's best for you, because nobody else will. You're the person.
Just always remember, you're hiring the doctor.
right, they work
Oh,
for
yeah.
you.
They work for you, not the other way around. So if they're not working for you and taking care of you the way you need, go find another doctor. There's thousands out there.
I don't fuck with bad doctors either. I'll blast your shit.
I,
You're in the
I really
field
like
to
her.
help me.
Yeah.
You went through everything you went through. You took an oath to help me, and you just want to write me off? You want to act like I'm just some crazy woman? Go see some therapy. That's why they fucking created the vibrator. Manic woman syndrome. Get out of here.
well, normally we tell people if you have a message that you want to get out to the world, that you have the free reign to do so. But with what you two just said, that was great. And I don't think there's a better way to end the podcast. I think that we should just wrap this up.
Advocate for your health and have a vibrator. There you have it.
It's been 2 days since we did the interviews with Matrix. I took notes for things that we needed to debrief on. So this is going to be spotty, guys. I know this is at the end of the whole recording for you, so it'll be fresh for you. It's not for us.
Right.
So bear with us on this. Before I get into that, I really want to have journals made.
Okay.
And it's pure ego, right?
Yeah.
I know that we're not going to make a big profit on it, but I carry this big journal with me everywhere I go. It's in my backpack. It's like
It's nice.
It's distressed leather. It feels good. The paper inside of it's recycled.
I like the paper inside of
Paid
it.
a lot for it. Like it was over $100, but it's refillable. And leather's leather. I know that we have somebody in Discord that makes leather, and he's going to make me a wallet. But I think we might want to. I want to have journals made that have GBB on the bottom.
Okay.
Or the logo, or something. I don't know, but I love distressed, like used leather. Also, guys, for all of you who can see third camera, I am wearing my flip-flops. I am at home. It has been a long 72 hours, and you're going to have to deal with my monkey toes. All right. Page 1 has nothing to do with this.
Okay.
That's men's group stuff. You're not privy to that.
You know, every time you guys tag here in the men's group, I'm like, oh, I got tagged in something, and I see men's group. I'm like, I'm not allowed to be here.
Go in and clear it though, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
I do too. When you guys tag me, admin and shit, yeah. All right, so the follow-up video of Sean and Ken, I almost said Shen. Sean and Ken is what we're doing. The first note is that we have to address the discount, because I was saying that it's $200 off your labs, and that is incorrect. The $200 that you get with Matrix Hormones is $200 off of your initial consultation with them, and it is fucking worth it. These people are thorough. Like, you would not believe they are thorough.
And I believe it was $150 off the women's.
No, it's still $200.
Yeah?
Yeah, the women's labs are more expensive. So a man will pay
Gotcha.
$100. A woman will still pay $150.
Okay.
Because it's $300 or $350 without the discount. So if you're going to do the Matrix Hormones thing, and you should, if you're over 20 years old, even if you're just getting your baseline, you should get your hormones checked. Dude, it's $100. Like, come on.
We've both done it.
Right. I mean, I do mine every 6 months. And the one time that I missed it, I thought I was going to have a fucking heart attack. So, and what they said in the video, in the interview, is that you should do it in your 20s to get a baseline. Because when you're 20, 21, and you're at the peak of your game and testosterone, feeling indestructible and on top of the world,
Right.
that's what they want to keep you at. So when if I would have got my shit tested when I was like in my late teens, early 20s, I probably would have been at the 1,000 to 1,500 mark. Like,
Right.
I've had a beard since I was 12. I'm a hairy guy. Like, puberty did not come late for me. never looked feminine.
Yeah.
So,
and it's super important too, especially for men, because not all men have a peak testosterone that's the same.
right. No, they don't.
So,
And he said that there are some people who are not having puberty. Like they're kind of just skipping over it.
yeah. Terrifying. That has really never been a thing in history.
So that was one of the things that you had me write down that you wanted to discuss was puberty skipped.
Yes. Unheard of. I've never heard of that. The fact that specifically boys are skipping puberty and females are developing sooner. Come on. That's not a coinky dink.
Right. So let's think about this for a minute, because every time we jokingly call people neckbeards, and we know, like, in the nerd communities, there's a lot of people out there who can't actually grow a beard. It's very splotchy. It's very like,
Right.
and I know that that's not, we cleared that with Brandon. Brandon said that they told him because he could grow a beard, he didn't have low testosterone, but being hairy and having hair is a sign that you've gone through puberty,
Right.
or that you are going through it. So there are a lot of people who are in that community that can't grow facial hair properly. They're very splotchy. And these are all people who've grown up eating fast food, eating pizza their entire lives, living on fucking Mountain Dew and Cheetos, playing video games. Like, they have not had the physical activities. We know that they said that doing heavy squats and deadlifts increase testosterone. When you have high testosterone, it makes achieving things feel good. It feels like you're conquering something. It makes you want to keep doing it. When you're playing video games and you're living in that mom's basement scenario where you've not done anything physical, that could be a potential issue with your testosterone.
Yep.
Because you're not doing extraneous things. Did you have the gym class thing where you had to do standardized testing for fitness when you were a kid? Was that a thing when you were in school?
In elementary school, it was. Once I hit like middle school, high school, they started implementing like the presidential fitness test where you could volunteer to do it if you wanted to.
Right, okay.
But elementary school, it was mandated to do
Right.
like the standardized physical testing.
We had to do that throughout my entire schooling.
Yeah, they ended that my middle school years.
Crazy. That's fucking insane to me. And like, there's a lot that goes into that, because if they're,
Before you keep going, as somebody who went through that, I contribute that as part of the reason why I got as obese as I did. There was no push from anybody in my life to be physical.
right. Yeah, they're just like, yeah, you don't have to do it. Don't worry.
Oh, you don't want to run the track? Go sit on the sideline.
Yeah.
Oh, you say you have asthma? You can walk it.
Yeah. But that falls into a weakness, right? It's removed the competitive aspect. So for teenage kids, especially young boys who are going through testosterone spurts, they need that competitive to push them to want to excel in other things.
Yeah.
So for somebody that does not have to do standardized testing, you're not pushing your body to release those hormones the way that they should be released to make you go through puberty the way that you should. Theoretically, this makes sense in my brain.
Right.
You look at what we were doing 100 years ago. 100 years ago, when you were a teenager, you were still working outside. You were farming. You were doing the things that your parents were doing on the properties that you were living on. Even if you were in the city, you were outside working on cars. Like, you had to do physical shit because we weren't as, like,
Life wasn't lavish.
things were not
There weren't
automated the way that
comforts,
they are
yeah.
right now. Right.
You know, 100 years ago was 1923.
Yeah.
There were 15, 16-year-old boys who had dropped out of school at that point to continue working the family business.
Yeah. There's actually a story, and I got to be honest, I can't think the name of it to save my life, but you can Google a story about. There was a story about a 15-year-old kid who left America, left his home because his dad passed away. He like hitchhiked, trained, walked all the way to South America, and then started a lumber company. This lumber company today still exists. But by the time he was like 25 years old, he was worth billions of dollars because he left home to go work to provide for his family. And the whole time he was working, because it was so cheap to live where he was living, he was sending all of his money back home. And that company is still in business today at 15.
15.
Yeah.
There are men right now in their 30s and 40s. I can't get a job. It's too hard to make money.
Please don't get me started on that right now.
Okay.
I really want to make that video, but I'm going to get emotional, and I don't. I think that needs to go to Patreon. So
Well, that wasn't what I was trying to do. I'm sorry.
I know, but every time I hear that, it just triggers that thought process, and I really want to unload on people right
Me
now.
too.
Okay.
I get it.
You said another note was 19-year-old no testosterone, because he said that he talked to somebody who had like a testosterone that was in the 60s or something when they were 19.
Oh, it was a 19-year-old kid with a 300 testosterone level. When you're in your late teens, early 20s, that's when it should be in the thousands.
It should be 800 to 1200 is what the current high is.
And he was in 300.
Yep.
That's like the shit you see in 70-year-old men.
Yeah.
Why? And that's becoming a frequent thing for them. They're seeing it across the board in younger men with lower testosterone. They're starting TRT younger. And that coupled with the fact that some boys are just skipping puberty, that coinciding with women developing younger, and the fact that social media is pushing
the demasculinizing. Why can't I say that? The demasculization of men.
And then the pushing of women are the superior. And then there's a whole other thing outside of that with a bunch of other groups. Everything's a mess and everything right now. But specifically talking in this, feminism are becoming more of the masculine figure. And men are becoming the more weaker, submissive one.
Men are becoming bitches. That's what it comes down to.
And knowing that boys are skipping puberty, what the fuck are they putting in our food? That doesn't just happen.
Right.
It's not what we're breathing. It's what we're ingesting.
I agree with that.
And food is medicine.
Yes.
If you're getting your kids McDonald's every single night, ordering Pizza Hut, you have no idea. And another thing that really bothers me when he brought up the fact that girls are developing younger and boys are just not developing really at all, the fact that right now the Sound of Freedom is out. And
you know that just got picked up for another 1,500 movie theaters?
Good.
On its 4th week?
Good.
1,500 more theaters. I'm really hoping that it comes to Cine Bistro because I would really like to go see it in the theater.
I'm going to be a mess.
Yeah.
I've seen clips of it on TikTok and I'm crying every time I see a clip.
There's been a lot of people who have actually, that dude, the guy that they based that movie off of is making his rounds on the podcast circuits right now and interviewing a lot of people. It'd be very dope to try to get him on. Maybe we should look into, maybe we should try to get Zach to see if we need a studio.
We do.
Yeah, we need a studio. Anyways, where were you going with that before you brought the Sound of Freedom?
I think there's a lot that goes into it. It's more than just men can't be men anymore. There are now things in place. Feminism has become so intense and so angry. If someone calls me a feminist, I'm offended.
Yeah.
I am not a feminist. I'm a supporter of women, but I'm not a feminist. That word has taken on a whole new meaning in today's society, and to be grouped with a such extreme high narcissistic tendency group of people, I'm good. I don't want that.
What does it mean to be a supporter of women?
A supporter of women, if you want to go out and be the boss babe and do your thing and you are still living a healthy life in your marriage, your relationship, your children are happy, do it.
So individual freedoms.
Individual freedoms. If you want to be a stay-at-home wife and that makes you happy, do it. If you want to be a lesbian and you are the pants wearer in the house, you're the more masculine energy and you want to be that provider for your family, fuck yeah, get it.
Yeah, I think it's important to define that. I think moving forward, that needs to be our statement.
Okay.
Supporters of individual freedoms, because I don't support all men.
Right.
And it's so to say that even if you were to say, are you a supporter of blue collar men? I'm a supporter of blue collar trade jobs.
Yeah.
I'm a supporter of that lifestyle. But to say that I'm a supporter of men who do those jobs, those men could be abusive, they could be rapists, they could be drug addicts, there could be a whole lot of things. So for me to lump myself into that, I think does us a disservice as our brand.
I agree.
So I think maybe we should we are supporters of individual freedoms.
Okay.
I think that's all encompassing enough.
I like that.
It just hit me when you said that. I was like, I need a definition of that because I definitely don't support women. I don't. I support my woman, but I'm not gonna say that I support what's going on. I don't support.
Right.
I don't support a lot of things in today's society. The other note was hormones in foods. So we talked a little bit about that, and I'm gonna plug Green Chef. This is gonna make a lot of noise. I'm going to plug Green Chef. I know that they sponsor the actual podcast. For those of you who listen to Spotify and Apple and Pandora, whatever, Amazon Music, whatever it is that you listen to that streams, we have Green Chef as an ad. They are our sponsor of our show for the podcast. Their food is organic.
I love Green Chef.
It's fucking amazing. Like the food tastes good. But for us, like real shit, I had Taco Bell today. I had a lot of it. But I also didn't eat yesterday. I had a couple cookies yesterday because like yesterday was a lot.
Right.
Day before we recorded literally all day long, and I had a burger.
Yeah,
that
we
was
didn't get
all
home
we
until
ate.
like 11 o'clock.
Right. So I feel different the last 3 days of eating compared to the prior 3 days before that where we were eating Green Chef because I actually felt good.
Yeah.
I knew, and on top of my AG1, like the drinks, I was actually in a good place if I could just stop the caffeine. That's the first drink I've had in 48 hours that's got caffeine in it because of what they said.
Yeah, I'm recognizing that my issue is Coke Zero.
It's the flavor and the bubbles, right? For me, that's what it is.
Yes, it's the flavor and it's the bubbles. You know, I actually had to push myself yesterday because I didn't donate blood. I got my hormone panel done.
Yes, you did.
I did. And I'm very excited.
I am too.
To get all of that back and figure out what's going on with my hormones. And
Yeah, because I can read those charts.
You can.
We don't have to wait.
I'm so...
But I also hope that you get your interview with Ken. I actually have to go do, I have another labs on Friday.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it. I can't fucking wait to be back on my regimen. I know that part of my rundown feeling is the fact that my testosterone's so low right now.
Yeah. Do you remember what I was saying?
You were talking about getting your labs done. We were talking about getting your issue is Coke water. Coke Zero, because you like the bubbles and the taste.
Okay.
And you were drinking water because you got your labs done yesterday.
And I was out of it yesterday. My body was so run down. The last week has been very high stress for me. The highest stress I've been in a very long time.
Yeah. That'll be a Patreon video. That's coming. We're going to record that after this.
It's going to be a couple of hours.
Yeah.
A couple of hours discussion. Yeah.
So we might do it the video after this one.
Yeah. So on top of everything that I was going through, I had my blood drawn yesterday, and I was just, I almost couldn't get through the day with how bad my body felt.
Yeah.
And I was like, you dehydrated bitch. Go get some water, you fucking lizard. Like,
yeah, that caffeine thing, knowing that if you drink a 16-ounce bottle of water and a 16-ounce energy drink, it negates the water that you drank, was like, ugh. I told Sean that this morning at the shop when I went and dropped off the keys for the NAS server. He said that, I was like, bro, you know that because now I know something. I have to throw it around like I fucking know what I'm talking about.
Get a little bit of information.
I did, but and I told him that, and I was like, bro, that company they sell products to fix your adrenals, and like that's gonna be my next call. When they call and they're like, hey, we got your labs back, we're ready to prescribe blah 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 or whatever, I'm gonna need some of that adrenal shit. I'm ready to kick the energy drinks. Like,
I'm gonna need help with what I'm gonna need to ask them for, because like I want that.
Yeah.
I have zero energy. I want to do the Semaglutide, yes. I love that I said it and you knew.
I knew exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I'm going to need help because I don't know how to navigate any of that.
Yeah.
And I do want to learn more. I want to be able to promote the things for women. Ladies, we sat down in those interviews and I really feel like a pool that needs maintenance.
Yeah.
Like my chemicals need to be checked, and you fuck it up, there's going to be a whole bunch of turmoil and we're going to have to rebalance it again.
Yeah. I know that you and I have discussed this behind the scenes, but I very much want to get involved with them on some level. I don't know how it's going to look. And I feel like those interviews were the first opportunity to meet them face to face and talk to them. And I know that we made a good impression, but like I would really like to be involved with what they're doing because I believe in the company.
The more that I've thought about it over the last few days, the more that I would love to be like a female representation for them.
Yeah.
Because I have never thought about getting my hormones checked. Why would I?
Right.
You know, it's never been stressed to me the importance of my hormones. No one's ever told me what my hormones do to my body. Talk about failing our children.
Right.
Fuck.
Talk about, oh, you're on your period, now you're on birth control. Let's really fuck your hormones up for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. And I talked to Brandon a little bit about it yesterday. You and I need to do a face call with him and Kayla.
Okay.
We have a lot. We have so much fucking going on right now. Guys, I know that like we've been avoiding Discord for the last 4 days. I got on Patreon for the first time in 3 days and just made quick posts like, hey, we're still alive and kicking. We have so much going on right now that like we're trying to navigate everything and still do this properly.
Right.
Because it would be very easy to come in and be like, okay, we did this, this, and this, gotta go.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to half-ass something. If you're going to do it with your whole ass. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to discuss in the interview aspect with Ken and Sean and Ken?
I learned a lot.
I learned a lot too, but I think we learned different things.
I knew absolutely nothing going into that interview, so you are correct. We definitely learned different things.
What did you learn?
The importance of having your hormones checked. I learned that there is a whole new level of neglect happening to men that I didn't even realize.
And with the demonization of testosterone, it's gotten so much fucking worse.
And it blows my mind. Just absolutely insane. I could not imagine being a man in today's time. There's no oppression for women in America. Don't play that game with me. You want to hit me with something, I'm going to hit you with something else, and you're going to have to try to logic way navigate that, because everything's an option at this point. You can either have a high paying job with no money, or you can make $600,000 a year cleaning sewers.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10 from the interviews conducted, women said, nah, I don't want to do that. I would rather make no money and have a very nice job.
Yep.
So knowing that in the medical world, a man can say, all of this is happening to me. It's affecting me. It's affecting my marriage. I want to be in a good headspace. Help me. They're like, we got you up into the 400s. You're good. Relationships are falling apart. Marriages are falling apart. Men's mental health is falling apart. No wonder they're unaliving themselves at such a fast rate.
Yeah. Yep. Suicide rates are high as fuck.
Oh my God.
What do you think the most important job a woman can have is?
The most important job a woman can have?
Yeah.
Being a sound, structured support system in her family.
Okay. So for those women who would rather work what I don't remember how they worded it, luxurious job
Oh yeah, however they
for
say it.
free or clean sewers for $100,000 a year.
I'd rather be a stay-at-home mom at that point.
Right. Why?
If I'm not making an income, if I'm not reaping anything from my hard work, why am I here? Am I just a pretty face to you?
Right. Just to say that you have a high profile job.
Right.
Yep. We need to do an episode on feminism.
Yeah.
I think we should do that for Ruminations and Revelations 8 because that's the next one and we haven't recorded that yet. So
I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
I have been preparing to be a very loud voice opposing feminism in today's world.
Okay. There's I really think that we need to figure out a studio situation.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of people that are starting to come into that platform that I would really like to fucking interview.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I watch a lot of YouTube, like when I'm not doing audiobooks or on the computer shit. I don't watch a lot of television shows. I watch
Right.
podcasts and
Me
I listen
too.
to people that I respect give their opinions because I learn from it. I'm waiting to see one of our videos pop up on somebody else's podcast and be like, yo, we got to reach out to them. Like, so, all right, guys. So with that being said, $200 off your initial consultation with Matrix, matrixhormones.com. There's a link in the description. Do your initial patient forms. Say that To Be Better sent you. Get that discount and get your labs done. Even if you don't think there's anything wrong, and you think that you are at the fucking peak performance of who you are as a human being, get your lab work done because at least now you have a baseline so that in the future, if something doesn't feel right, you can go, here's my last labs, here's my current labs, fix me, doc. And you have something to show them that's tangible.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. It was either Sean or Ken. They mentioned that there was a man went in. He could have been in the thousands at his peak, but they got him up to 400 and said that's good enough.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing to Sean, like our Sean.
Right.
I really do.
So having that, this is what my peak was, they can't bullshit you at that point.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you can't put me through the ringer. You can't try to lowball me. This is where you need to get me to where I need to be. And if you're not willing to do that, I'm going to go find somebody else.
Right. And that's for the men. For the women who like you guys, you heard them in the interview. You guys are so much more complex, and you guys being off by a point or two can make you crazy.
Yeah.
Like
I'm fucking feeling it. I have been going through an emotional roller coaster and looking into hormones and certain ways that they interact within my body. I have learned so much over the last 2 days. When I tell you I've been processing, I've been fucking processing.
Yeah.
And I have deep dived like female hormones, the way they interact in the body, how birth control can affect it, how having multiple pregnancies can affect it, miscarriages, all of it. Postpartum depression. I am very excited to get my hormones regulated.
It's crazy how little you know, right?
Right.
And even now, you've educated yourself a lot over the last few days, and you're still ignorant to all of this shit.
Yeah, I
Like,
still have
there's-
no idea.
Right.
I still have no fucking idea what I'm
Yep.
getting into.
Yep.
I feel like I am in the very kiddie shallow pool of 100-foot deep pool.
Yeah, just treading water.
Yeah, no, not even. Like, this shit's up to my ankles, and I'm looking at that deep water down there, and I'm like, oh, I can't see it. I don't know what's happening yet. I'm going to stick over here where I can see the light touching the ground. I can still see my feet.
Okay. Those were two very different scenarios, but it works. I was on the line of treading water, panicking, going through the emotions. Oh God, what am I gonna do? What's down there? Am I gonna die? What just touched my foot? And you're like, no, I'm staying in the fucking shallow and fuck that.
Oh, I know where I'm at. I need to make my way that way. I have to build up the courage to be like, all right, I know what the fuck I'm doing down there. I can hold my breath for 5 fucking minutes. Let's go. I'm still working on the. We're getting there.
That's funny.
I'm confident in myself that I can hold my breath for 5 minutes, but I don't want to just jump in there and realize I can only hold it for 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoy the interview. We want to do a lot more of this. But there's a whole lot of talks of studios happening right now. We really want to evolve to be better into more than just shitty emails that people use to trauma dump.
Yeah.
I've seen a transition from episode 30.5 to 31, 32, 33, and 34 is also a really good one. We got to finish that one today.
We do.
But I feel like the podcast is evolving. I feel like we're getting past the negative nonsense and we're less Jerry Springer and maybe more Maury Povich. I don't know. Working on Dr. Phil. We just got to get there.
Yeah.
So, all right. With that being said, guys, we will see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.